My name is John Initial L. Eberts, an old South Ender of Columbus. Born and raised at 268 Southwood Avenue, and never left town until Uncle Sam took me after I graduated from college. After I got out of the Navy, we lived on James Road, and ran into an old neighbor that I lived right behind down in the South End, Doc Carlisle. He was a plumber. He was an officer at the time, so he took me into the club. He was my sponsor. And I've been a Lion for just about 60 years since then. And Doc's not with us anymore, but he was a good Lion and a good neighbor and a good friend.
And I've been in the Southeast Lions, I could say, all my life. I was kind of born into it. My dad became a member in 1951. And when I was in junior high school and even grade school, they'd have an assembly and the Lions would come. And I remember the first time my dad got a chance to come and present something, I was in high school. I was just really proud because a lot of kids go, "Is that your dad up on stage?" And I said, yeah, he's involved in the Lions. When I finally took over the business, one time I think we were sitting next door at the bar having a beer, and I just asked him, I said, "Dad, what made you join the Lions way back when?" And I said, "Was it about, trying to build up, for business purposes or what?" And he said, "No, I'm in a neighborhood, I make a living out of it, and I'd just like to give something back to it." It's a good feeling.
I was born in the South Side. All the rest of my father's family was all still here in the South End, Federal Glass employees. And I used to, when I was younger, carry the papers from door to door with my uncle, who was a Lion, that he got me into the club.
Played Little League Baseball with the Southeast Lions Club when I was a child. That was my first exposure to the Southeast Lions. And then as I went through school, the Lions Club would come to the various schools that I attended, not only the schools that I attended, but 30 schools in this area, and they would do projects. It's a community organization. It was started by 46 men. They owned their own business. They worked for the factories that were here, Federal Glass, Buckeye Steel, American Standard.
Born on the South Side. I've always lived here on the South Side. I joined the club in the fall of 1995 to support all the good things that goes on here in the South Side of Columbus.
My dad joined in the early 1970s. The guys delivered the newspapers, and we always knew the people working for the Lions. They came in the house, had a visit with you. That's how I joined, just because my dad did.
Ever since the Lions Club has started back in the 40s, there's always been a Hermile that belongs to the Southeast Lions Club. So I'm one of the last ones.
First of all, I came over from England in 1953. I was 15 when the war broke out in England. I've been a Lion member for over 20 years. I was playing golf with a guy that introduced himself to me. He just turned to me and said, "Hey, Liz, would you be interested in being a member of the Southeast Lions?" So I came to the first meeting and I was really impressed. I don't know, it was just so exciting to be in a group that was so intent on doing something, a group that wanted to make a name for themselves in the area. My boss was a member here. All the bosses of different businesses were here. They were the major contributors to this club.
I joined this club because of my involvement in Little League Baseball, or I should say my son's involvement in Little League Baseball. If I remember right, the fellow who ran the Little League at the time, Rich Sammons, asked me to join.
I'm about a 5-year member into the Southeast Lions Club. Mark Boris was one of my buddies and kept telling me about it, and had some other friends that joined it. I got in and met everybody, and it's just been a very rewarding experience. I'm pretty active in everything we do as far as if they need time, and whether it's a kick-butt campaign or selling newspaper ads or selling papers. I enjoy the club very much.
I think I'm in my 8th year of membership now. So I'm a FNG, I'm a flippin' new guy. One of the reasons that I joined the Lions Club a number of years ago was because someone asked me if I was interested in serving the community in kind of a different way. And that was George. George's been with the Lions for many years, and I came to a meeting and I was very impressed to see that everyone that was there volunteers, and works for the betterment of the community. Many of us are going to be on the streets tomorrow. We're going to be on the streets and we're going to be looking for money and be handing out the paper and generate more income. The beauty of what we do and what we've done for over 70 years with the Lions Club here in Southeast Columbus is everything that we get in, we give back to the community.
My dad was a Lion. A lot of folks in the neighborhood were Lions. I can't tell you how gratifying it is having grown up and with my dad being a Lion and hanging out with a lot of these kids when I was younger, that it kind of life comes full circle. And I never dreamt I would be an out gay man in the Lions Club.
When our club was formed, there were no women in Lions Club. There were no women in Kiwanis, Rotarians. That didn't happen until the 80s. But the Southeast Lions Club had a Southeast Lions Auxiliary, and that was made up of the women, mostly wives, of the members. And they existed for 50 years, from 1950 to 2000. And they used to put on a euchre party here in the south end of Columbus, and we usually held it at St. Leo's Elementary School. And they'd have 250 euchre players at this party. Never cost them a dime. All the prizes and things were donated by businesses in the south end of Columbus. Every person who went out of that euchre party that night got a prize.
First got my assignment here at Schiller Park. I was the director for about 8 years. Our stove goes out in the kitchen, and went to the Lions. They bought us a new stove like it was nothing. They donated playground equipment and clocks for the gym, and they sponsored basketball, they sponsored baseball. Anytime we needed any help or volunteers, they were first to the plate. And now I've been 30-some years with the Lions Club and serving the South Side and the schools and the recreation parks. And I've really enjoyed being a member, and I'm so happy that they asked me to join.
Our Lions Club is one of service. We get requests from schools, we get requests from community organizations, other people that ask us if we can help them. We're very fortunate that we've been able to do over 2,000 projects in South Columbus. But in 1946, you got to understand that we've just come out of World War II. There had been no cars built for about 4 years. They're going to start building cars again. This Lions Club went to a local dealer here, Bob Chevrolet at Livingston and Parsons, got a car, and raffled it. They made about almost $5,000 on that first raffle for the first car. They did it again in 1947, made another almost $6,000. They reached out to a small hospital on Livingston Avenue, which was our boundary. It was just a small building, a house. It was called Children's Hospital. If you know anything about Columbus, Ohio, and Children's Hospital today, you know it's one of the finest hospitals for children in the world.
You know, the Lions have an interesting history. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that we have a lot of site-related charities. Started by Helen Keller.
Yeah, Helen Keller was a blind person, and she got to be, I think, well known from around and giving talks and things. And she spoke at the International Convention of the Lions Club.
And she challenged the Lions, and this was her statement, this was her speech, and she said, "I would like to challenge the Lions to be the knights for the blind in the crusade against darkness." And so that's how it started. Through that little quote, we continue to do those things. The Ohio Lions Eye Research Foundation, which again is here in the state of Ohio, money is given to them almost every single year by Lions clubs here locally and throughout the state to help with eye research.
They had a big part of starting the eye bank here in Columbus, which is still going.
In 1973, the OSU decided they could, at that time, transplant the cornea of the eye. And the first person to be involved with that was actually a Southeast Lion. Cook & Sons Funeral Home on Parsons Avenue. His mother and father were the owners of that. His grandfather started the business. He was the first one to enucleate the eye, remove the cornea. He was the first president of the Central Ohio Lions Eye Bank in 1973-74. Since that time, we've continued to support the Central Ohio Lions Eye Bank. This Lions Club does that every single year.
And we have furnished glasses and examinations to people who needed it and couldn't afford it otherwise. We still collect old glasses, which we donate to the Ohio State University.
The Ohio Lions Foundation was formed back in the early 80s, and that continues today. The founder of that, Jeff Brandner, but he's the guy who actually got us involved in the Ohio Lions Foundation. They reach out to students who are blind and going to the universities and help them with scholarship money. Many wouldn't be able to go to school, and they become doctors and lawyers and all kinds of professional positions. They reach out when there's a natural disaster in Ohio. When we had the floods some years back in southern Ohio, the first people on board, guess what? Was the Ohio Lions Foundation with grant money to help those people, to get them through.
One of our premier programs is the GOOD program with Ron Derry.
He was a teacher at one time and became blind, and we back him financially so he can go to all the schools in our area, and he gives them a pep talk. And he is really good.
And he gives his personal story about what it's like to lose your eyesight, to lose your employment, but don't give up. So he's a message, and he represents the Southeast Lions Club, and we sponsor him in more schools than any other club in the state of Ohio, over 20 schools annually. And we don't get a penny from the Board of Education, only through the Lions Roar newspaper, and the people support that. And we have a full-page ad in the paper that tells what he does.
We get letters back from the kids, we get letters from the teachers, the principals, how wonderful he is giving this talk to the kids. It really helps a lot.
For years, we bought a pilot dog for a blind person. After the guy had his 2 weeks or 3 weeks of training, we would have him to our luncheon. He'd bring the dog with him. And then he'd get up and basically thank us and tell us how much his whole life has changed, and there's so much more he can do. And I mean, there probably wasn't a dry eye in the crowd when he was talking.
Voice War is a radio reading service for the blind, and they can listen to the reading the newspaper in the morning. When I first joined the club, we used to go out and read for the Lions, for those people.
We did a thing at Ronald McDonald House, and we volunteered to do a dinner for the people that are staying there. We go to those things and see what those people are going through, and actually get to talk to them and know a little bit about them, and they're also grateful that because they're there with a very sick kid.
We have an organization that was started here a few years back by the sisters at Corpus Christi. They started what they called the Dominican Learning Center, and it was a place to help people who could not read nor write.
I go out to talk to them. They give us an idea of what they're needing for their students. They have probably over 200 students.
We started with them. We've been with them ever since, over 25 years. Every single year we help them with a project.
We did the Lions Little League, look forward to that every year. That touched a lot of kids and a lot of people in the neighborhood.
Probably a third of the money we raised in those days went to the Little League. So we were their primary supporter.
Back in 1956, there's a park here in South Columbus called Y Park, and it actually was Hoover Y Park. We put in a giant slide there, all metal slides, 75 feet in length.
It went down, had a dip in it, a dip in it, a dip in it, and at the end was a sand pit. It was well known, got to be well known, boy. And then the kids got so where they used to come down and they used to put wax paper under their seat when they'd go down and make a slicker.
I can remember going to Lions picnics at Y Park. I got a photograph someplace of me sitting on my dad's lap going down that granddaddy slide for the first time. And after I got used to going down with him, I did it a zillion times on my own.
That slide never cost Y Park or anybody else a penny of money. The people who supported the Lions Roar were the ones who made that possible. We also have a playground in Southeast Columbus. It was one of the very first projects of this club. They bought the land on Barthman Avenue, bought 11 lots, paid for it, erected a playground, and then in 1946, called the City Inn. Mel Dodge was the director of Parks and Rec and said, hey, we'd like to donate this park to you to keep it forever for the youth. It's still there. It's called the Southeast Lions Park.
The Lions Club has done an awful lot for the south end of Columbus. through different organizations, the schools. We've done a lot for the schools. A lot of schools, the teachers would like a teaching aid of some kind, where there was at one time maybe a TV set or something for the classroom. And the school board did not buy it for them. We did.
If you go around to these schools today, the ones that are still left have playground equipment that the Southeast Lions Club purchased with the monies that we got through the paper. There's a new center here in South Columbus called the Reeb Center. It's an old school that was in there, elementary school that was there for 100 years plus as a school. And now it's a community center. Some very important people came together and decided that it was time to rehab that building and make it something the community is proud of.
It's the home now of Boys and Girls Clubs, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all kind of clubs. We did make sure a while back to go down there and make sure we had an American flagpole out front to put in and to have a flag inside so they can pledge allegiance before their meetings, which we do every day before our luncheons. We have a lot of veterans, a lot of people who are dedicated to our country and our well-being.
Our charter president went off to World War II. He was called to war. And many of our members. We have many of the members in our club today that are veterans of recent wars. We had the privilege of being one of the ones to support the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. We've been there through honor flight. Our members have been there.
I was at the invasion of Sicily and Italy before I was 19 and at D-Day before I was 20. I went on the honor flight, I can't remember what year it was now, 5, 7 years ago, along with 2 other vets. Both those guys, unfortunately, not with us today. Just going to Washington, D.C., not being a member of the American forces, but of course being a member of the Allied forces. It was just an amazing day.
It doesn't cost the veteran one single penny because of donations through organizations like the Southeast Lions Clubs and companies and other organizations that support, showing our appreciation for those men and women.
You know, it's good to get involved for more than just an hour in a street cleanup. To actually get to see that you are making a difference.
We are active in Schiller Park, there in German Village. It's in our area. And we have been sponsoring an Easter egg hunt, I don't know how many years now, 50-some years.
Well, this past year we had probably 150, but in years past we've had as many as 250 to 500.
The Columbus Fire Department has a fire truck that goes down and parks, and it's open to show all the kids the fire paraphernalia and that. And the kids line up on the edges, and when the fire truck sends out the siren at 10 o'clock, wow, do they run for the eggs.
Their parents and grandparents come up to us and thank us constantly for what we've done for the children here in Southside. The friendship you get it's something you can't really imagine. They appreciate everything you do for them. I mean, not only from the schools to the donations that we make to different organizations. They really thank us, and it's just something we want to do for them.
They just send the kids at Camp Equine Hills, and you get the letters back from, or the good program that we sponsor, and you get the thank you notes from the children. That's the feedback you like to hear.
We're all volunteers. Everything we do is volunteers. So everything that we raise here in the community goes right back into the community.
We're called the club that gets things done. A newspaper man gave that quote to us one time, and we've continued with that. When you see our logo, it says the club that gets things done, because we get things done.
We're the club that gets things done, and we do get things done.
And like our motto is, it's a club that get things done, and we do.
It's all about, having a good time and, helping people, and we do golf outings. So there's, all kinds of various activities that we do. The paper sale, selling the ads, the little bit of, I can sell more ads than you can sell, trying to make a little bit of a game out of it, just the year long of helping this school and helping these people and helping and getting the gratitude and the thanks back from them.
We just do so many things to help youth and the community. When the Southeast Lions started, there was no German Village. There was no Marion Square. There was no Hungarian village. German village didn't come in existence until the 60s. We were already here. We've been here, we're still here. We're still doing the things that we've done in these communities since day one, since we started in 1940. We're very proud of our association. Schiller Park is our headquarters, has been for years and years. We meet weekly. We're the only Lions Club locally that still meets every single week at Berwick Party House. We invite the public to come and be a part of that. We have a program usually with various topics in the south end of Columbus. Sometimes it's about our own Lions Club, what we're doing.
My dad always told me when I would come to a Lions Club meeting, he says, it's good for you because we always had some fantastic speakers. The speaker that I remember very much so was Woody Hayes.
That's what everybody says at the end. It says, dismiss, goodbye, so long, we'll see you next week. What do all Lions do? Roar! That's about it. And we dismiss till next week.
We're very fortunate because every year we put together a newspaper, which is called the Southeast Lions Roar. That paper started in 1949. This past year was the 70th anniversary of the Lions Roar paper.
We write all the stories and everything in it, sell the advertising. The stories are about the projects that we do that year. Where did we spend our money? And we consider the paper a report to the citizens of Columbus as to how we handle our money, as it goes 100% out there for the projects.
Usually right after Labor Day, we start selling the ads. And so basically we're completed selling ads by the end of October.
I believe there was like 64 paper routes. Members would all have anywhere from maybe 6 or 8 to 15 or 20 helpers and take their route and go door to door, and we always blew whistles as we were going around so people would know it was the Lions.
I've been taking care of the area down at Great Southern called Highview and High for probably the last 10 years. And so I know a lot of people, and I have friends that come down, and they're basically making donations to us.
I had about 20 of my friends that we took 2 routes side by side and carried the papers every Friday. And that was just a great experience because everybody looked forward to it. I mean, including the people in the neighborhood. And they'd have their porch lights on waiting for us. We'd be up and down the street blowing these little whistles, and the Southeast Lions are coming. And it was just a great turnout and a great involvement with the whole community.
People leave their porch lights on, and they'd be there, and they'd be, you knock on the door, and they're already standing there with the money in their hand because they know that we're coming, and they want to help. Back then, they had a bigger club, so it'd be each member would get like 2 or 3 streets, and the club has dwindled in years, so you don't have the manpower to do the street sales anymore. You just do it on the corners, and you get the same reception. You see the window going down, so you walk over to them, and it's Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, thank you very much, and people are happy to give. So you help the schools, you help the children, you get computers, you get learning, like at the Reeb Center, they get tutoring, get a place to go to where it's safe, which, that is, it's all about trying to make life good.
Well, it can be cold, it can be rainy, which was last year, and it could be snowy. But other than that, we're dressed for it, and we're prepared for it. We're usually out on the street anywhere from 4 to 5 hours.
We had hot bouillon and drinks for them after they came in from a paper sale. It was always cold in December, so they appreciated that very much, and they were happy to always come back and help again.
We then, after the neighborhoods got a little rough, and we actually didn't collect as much money as we used to. A lot of the money we got was from our helpers kicking in, $20 or $30 themselves. Then we went to doing a street sale, and that turned out, pretty beneficial, especially at first.
Back in the early 90s, the city took all the charities that were soliciting money on the street. They stopped it, unless you were a 501c3. A charitable foundation. So we set up a charitable foundation. It's a separate entity from the Lions Club.
Well, I just remember being at Hamilton Road and Refugee, standing on the medium strip. A woman pulled up in a car and gave me a $20 bill. And within 5 or 10 minutes, she was back again. She said, "Now, who are you now?" And I said, "Well, looky here, it says Southeast Lions." She said, "I think I've heard of the Southeast Lions, and I think they're doing a good job." That really surprised me, really encouraged me. So,
our ad customers referred us to other ad customers. We don't run anything in a paper that says, "Hey, call us up and we'll come out and talk to you about an ad." We go to your business place and say, "You got an ad, you got anybody?" I go and I say, "Do you have anybody here that might be interested, you think, in supporting what we do here?" And believe me, I've gotten hundreds of new ad customers that way. So I guess we do a pretty good job because people are willing to support us.
My company tries to have a kind of a memorial page that George puts together for me, and it honors Lions that have been in the club all these years. So my dad's on those pictures some years, and we buy a full-page ad. It's always just good to have the Lion Memorial page, and I show it to the employees, and it's been a real good thing for us.
I've been so pleased and so blessed to be associated with some of the finest people in this world through the Southeast Lions Club. Many of them are gone now, but I'm going to tell you something. I remember every one of them.
And that's one thing about the original Lions Club. Those guys, they started out, they were all probably in the 25 to 35 age group, and they basically grew up together. They used to vacation together. They'd go to international conventions together, and they all became good friends.
Right now, I think we have about 35 members. Back when I first joined the club, I think we were at 105. I was busy, but I found time to go to the meetings and the luncheons. I had 5 children, ended up being president twice and on all the committees and things, so it was very enjoyable.
and how many clubs do you get to associate with that have been around for over 70 years? I mean, I was sitting with guys that had been members for 50 years.
It's just a club you stay in for a long time, and we're really needing some younger people.
You think back, this club started in 1940, what that South Side neighborhood was like. And I think what I was impressed by is all of the Lions ended up moving out of the South Side as they progressed in their lives and their careers. But they kept at it anyway, even though they didn't live on the South Side. And here we are now, many, many years later. The South Side is just coming back strong. It's exciting to see the energy on the South Side, but the Lions never went away. The Lions were there through the whole time, and the Lions are going to be part of the future of the South Side.
A lot of us that are in the Lions right now don't live in the area. We still care about it, but we all realize it's a whole different ballgame out there now, and we're competing for volunteers that are already volunteering.
It's incredibly gratifying when you're volunteering for the neighborhood that you live or work in, that you're helping to make your streets cleaner, you're helping to make sure the schools are stronger, you're helping whatever programming exists for that community, and you know that you're giving back specifically to the place where you live or work.
I know a lot of people nowadays that got children in all these activities, so you need to adjust your life to where, give back to the community.
We do a lot of good work. The more members you have, the more work you can do. The more members you have, the more papers you can sell, the more ads you can sell.
Set a little time aside to do something for mankind, I guess you'd say, and come to the meetings and find out what we are really doing.
And it takes a little time to belong to the Lions Club, and I'm happy to be a part of Southeast Lions. It's just been a great organization.
We're giving back to the community, and we're supporting those that are much less fortunate than ourselves.
By coming to the Lions Club, it's a direct interaction with a lot of good people. It's a throwback to the way my dad was, but it's also something that, the newer generation will have to find something like that. And I think they're good-hearted, and there's a lot of volunteer positions they might do.
I think we need to focus on getting the businesses, the owners in the business. Now that some of these areas, some of the microbreweries and some of the restaurants and all these things, get those people involved. Parsons Avenue is the biggest change. I grew up there, and the area, I can tell you, has just come up. It's nice that you see families jogging, having their little kid on a stroller, which you didn't see that 10 to 15 years ago.
The South Side is just coming back strong. It's exciting to see the energy on the South Side, but the Lions never went away. The Lions were there through the whole time, and the Lions are going to be part of the future of the South Side.
As the community's changing, our club will change, and we're a club that's inclusive, not exclusive. But here's the question that you have to answer. Are you willing to serve?
We're doing all this stuff for our community, and then I went to a couple of your events, and I really liked it. What I was really impressed with was that you actually do things, you know? So a lot of people talk about doing things. I mean, you're actually affecting change, and that's what I'm really interested in. So I just think that's really wonderful. So that's why I joined.
So Southside's always held a special place to me. And I owe it a give back because a lot of the restaurants, bars, community on the South Side was there for me when I needed it. So I went away for 20 years, back to the family business, and well, here I am. And I have my friend Tom. You're a pretty hard guy to say no to when I want to give back in a more meaningful way. I really couldn't find a better way.
I wear the Southeast Lions lapel pin because I'm proud to be a Southeast Lion. I wear the Lions logo because I'm proud to be a Southeast Lion. We've reached out into this community for 80 years, and we hope to do another 80 years.
And what I'm excited about is some of the important values of being a Lion still exist today. You know, service, helping others, community. You know, things have changed a lot, but I like being part of the change.